So Pua, you're in California, is that correct?
Correct.
And next week you have a meeting with an estate attorney.
Yes.
And so how do you know the estate attorney? How'd you get introduced?
Um, she's the sister-in-law of a very old friend of mine.
And
Old in length of time that we've known each other as well as age.
so she said, how did she set the meeting up?
Well, it actually I talked to her first, and when I talked to her, I asked her about probate attorneys. So she didn't recommend her sister-in-law. When I talked, she says, "Oh, talk to my daughter." So then when I talked to the daughter about a probate attorney, she turned around, she says, "I don't know a probate attorney, but my aunt is an estate attorney." So then she gave me her name, her number, and her email. And she said, "Just contact her." And I told her, I said, you know, I would prefer if your mom kind of introduced me, went with me and introduced me, because I think she'd feel a lot more comfortable having the conversation if one of you were with me. So then she turned around and she says, "Well, call mom." She says, "Mom's a better contact for you to go with you." So then I went and called back my girlfriend and I mentioned it to her. She goes, "Well, you asked for a probate, not an estate."
Okay.
So I turned around and I says, either or. And so I told her about, her potentially going with me to the meeting. And that's when she said, "Okay, let me call my sister-in-law." She set it up. So next Tuesday in the afternoon, I think it was 1:30, that we're going to meet with the sister-in-law.
Oh, she's going with you. Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fantastic. So,
yeah.
okay, great. What is,
Well, that's what you said.
you bet. I'm so glad that, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, they're not going to cancel the appointment because your friend's going with, and the
Mhm.
meeting will be friendlier because your friend's going with who knows the person. So the question is then, what are you going to say? What are you going to ask? If you go to our scripts book in the school, it's not right now. Well, you can look at it now, but I really want to. What's your gut tell you that you would say to an estate attorney if, remember, you're not there to get referrals, and the realtor goes, "Wait a minute, yes, I am." No, we're not supposed to ask first. You on a first date,
Right.
we don't go, "You want to get married?" I'm a realtor. You need a realtor, so give me your listings. It's too early. That's where we have the book Speed of Trust on our training school, because people think I'm a realtor, I'm trustworthy. Heck, just ask me. Give me all your listings. I'll take care of them honest. Well, they already know realtors that are established with them, but they're probably not getting all the deals. Even if they are getting most of the deals, the estate attorney may not be happy with that agent. We're going to take the account away from somebody, or at least get your fair share, so to speak. So at the first meeting, it's not about an audition like it's a listing interview. This is an account 7 to 10, 15 deals a year. And we're not going to walk out with a contract and a handshake that says, "Pua, you're the one. I'm going to give you all my deals." That's too much to hope for. You just met the guy, right? But we do know this: they have listings to give because their clients say to them, "Yeah, we're going to sell the house. We need to find a realtor and the estate attorney, the probate attorney, divorce attorney, the CPA." They're always being asked by their clients, "Yeah, I'm going to sell my house. Do you know a realtor?" Some don't ask, some do. Well, enough people say, "I need a realtor. or they'll just say, I'm going to call an agent, and the estate attorney that you're meeting with goes, can I introduce somebody to you? And then the family goes, yeah, sure, that'd be great. But we don't expect that to happen on the first meeting. So going back to the question, by the way, I'm going to do this interview. I mean, I do these like you and I are doing right now with agents all the time. I'm recording it because I'm going to put it on the school and our training site. But Pua, you're going to watch. Yesterday, I interviewed Jimmy in California, who's meeting with a judge who has 2 probate attorneys. And you're going to want to watch that video. I did one with James, who's meeting with an estate liquidator next week at like a Starbucks. And you want to hear how I counsel with him. All of these training videos, I think, well, you'll go, huh, I didn't think of that. I didn't do that. So you'll be able to watch other people like this.
And that's going to be on school?
On our academy. Yeah, on the Golden Goose Academy school.
Okay.
There'll be a book
right.
of all these sessions. That being said, you're going to be there next week. You're going to have a sit down and your introducer's going with fantastic. What's your opening question? Remember, you're just there. That's good. That's great. But that's really good. So at a restaurant, when they say, are you ready to take the order? Do they actually say, can I tell you about the specialties? Because if they say the special today is fish and the other one's steak, people go, I'll just have the first special. People can't make up their minds. So if you give a recommendation to the estate planner, remember, your title is in a way a relationship rainmaker. That's what realtors are. We are relationship rainmakers. And if you don't get that part right, business is going to be really hard. And so the goal is when you're sitting with him, because your first question's about rights. How can I help you, right? And so it's you're going to sit down, you're going to introduce, and you want to lead with the question, because whoever's asking the questions is leading the conversation. You ever see a 4-year-old? Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I do this? Can I stay up late? Who's leading the conversation? The one asking the questions. An attorney, somebody's in the witness chair. Who's leading? The one asking the questions. So you're the asker. In a way, you don't really want to be asked a lot of questions when you're there. Do you have a lot of experience with probate? And the agent goes, no, I haven't done it yet. We don't want to be asked any questions. Do you cover what territories do you cover? And you identify it, but it wasn't what he was thinking. So we really want to control the conversation where not really much is being asked of us. Questions are being asked of us to eliminate us. Do you sell in the Sacramento area? I don't know, California far enough, well enough, but let's say it was pretty far from you. And you go, no, I don't, because he's thinking about a $4 million listing he has right now. And you go, well, for 4 hours away, I'd go for it. It's $4 million listing. So we got to be careful answering questions that eliminate us. How do we do that? We go in there with a set of questions in writing, which you'll have from me, and a set of questions. Just like when you do the sit down with the vendor, it's in our scripts book, the 9 questions you want to ask. It's in the scripts book because you have questions for your VC, your vendor connector, and you got questions for your Golden Goose sit down. Because in a way, you want to be asked none. Because if you say to me, Brian, how do I respond if they ask me, do I have any experience with probate? Well, there's enough agents in this program who've done 20 of them, and some have done none of them. And it's weird. If you're answering questions, I don't know the agents well enough to know how they're going to respond. But if they're asking questions, in a way, I can help lead the interview without being there. But, you know, let's say you were new in the business and the attorney says, Pua, how long have you been doing this? And the agent goes, about 2 months. They're eliminated. The meeting will keep going, but you've been
They've already discarded you.
yeah. And when you say, I cover this part of Los Angeles and that part, and he's got a listing in his mind, he's eliminated you because you did it yourself. Agents on listing interviews, I don't care if it's with your friend and you don't get it because they went with somebody else. It's because we eliminated ourselves, because we're answering questions. We are the leader of these conversations. Even though you want 50 deals over the next 5 years from this guy, we want to control the interview because we want to control the questions. So that being said, that was great what you did when you and I started this conversation. You asked a question, how can I help you? And let's say he says, you called the meeting. I got nothing in mind. Thanks for coming in. We need to be specific. One of the questions is going to be, Robert, great, thanks for the meeting. If I can ask you this first, I got a question for you. Because we work with hedge funds, because Pua, I do, and if you and I are on the same team, then we as a collective, we work with hedge funds, investors, probate attorneys, divorce attorneys, relocation companies, things like that. What I do is I help with the sale of the financial asset, the house. However, my priority really for meeting you is who's a good introduction for you as an estate attorney. When you're growing your business, are you thinking you'd want to meet 3 probate attorneys or three CPAs? Because that answers the question, Pua, how can I help you? We're going to make a suggestion of how we could help them. Because literally, if you say, how can I help you? And he goes, I got nothing in mind, but thanks for coming in. We want to lead with options, questions that have options. Trying to avoid yes, no questions. They're called alternate of choice. That's why the specialties at the restaurants are rarely one. You want the beef and macaroni, or do you want the fish and salad? Those are our 2 specials. Plus you got the menu with 80 items on them. People's brains work better when they have 2 options. Not 3, not 33, but 2. Because the brain needs contrast. So when we talk about being trained as an account executive, what I was trained in was how to perform in front of a CEO, a builder who owns 7 subdivisions, HR director, or a probate attorney. You got to be careful what you're going to ask that doesn't get you eliminated, or what you answer that doesn't get you eliminated. Most agents, they just limit themselves. It's what you said, Bob. When I've talked to agents after their meetings, I say to them, what did they ask you? Because I'm really curious, Pua, after your meeting next week, you have 2 Golden Goose meetings. That's awesome. And you just started like a minute ago. And you, but here's the good news. They all have listings to give you. They have all referrals to give you. So what I'm curious about is after your meeting, what is it you're going, I'm going to ask you, what did they ask you? And if you said, what areas I service, how long have you been doing this? Have you done any probate? And those are elimination questions, like you're out. And people thinking, he took an interest in me. No, he eliminated you. And agents go, it went really great. You may not hear from him again. It's interesting. It's almost as if they ask you nothing about your business. They know you're a realtor because you're going to tell them that I sell assets, I sell homes. We're not going to use the phrase, I'm a realtor. Because what do people think of realtors?
Just salesmen, just pesky. I've once been told that realtors are pesky mosquitoes. They just keep coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different descriptions of us. But we are asset managers. We help people make financial decisions. And when you are in your presentation, that's some of the words you're going to use. And some of the stuff's in the script book. Okay. I'm adding material to it all the time, the scripts book, because of conversations I'm having with agents. I'm going, oh, you know what? That's a good line. But so a good phrase or a good question. So, so as far as you want to have a good 6 to 9 questions, and with all sincerity, if he says, I want to meet CPAs, Pua, that would be great. I'm an estate planner, attorney, and I want to be introduced to CPAs because their clients need estate planning because CPAs don't do that. So when you're there with them, you're just thinking, when my friend here told me what you do, I thought, well, I go to all these Chamber of Commerce meetings. I can meet CPAs on every Wednesday if I want to. You know how I do it? I just walk right up to them. They're just standing there with a plate of food and a drink in their hand, networking. They're called meetups, Chamber of Commerce meetings, CE courses. They're everywhere, Bob. CPAs are everywhere. But if you're really busy with your practice and don't have any time to go out and get introduced, well, that's what I do. I'm like a relationship rainmaker. That's what I do. Because that's what you do, Pua. You're prior to us talking, in your whole career, you may not have been a relationship rainmaker. Well, you always were. You just didn't activate it. And now that you're sitting with a Golden Goose next week, you get to tell them what you're really good at. You know how to get people introduced. And when you've got enough pendings going on in your career, you can stop doing all networking. Now just take care of the Golden Goose. Because your pendings per month, what did you say you're comfortable doing? How many at a time?
Well, I'd like to do 5, at least 5, because that, from a selling perspective, that's a lot easier than trying to manage the buyer side. I think 5 on a buyer side would be a little bit too much, but from a selling side, I think that's more manageable.
To have 5 pendings, you're going to need to have about 10 or 11 listings that you're carrying that have not sold yet, because that feeds your pipeline. It feeds your pending pipeline. You can't have 5 pendings and no actives. You can't have 5 pendings and 2 actives. It's always got to be north of your pendings, and generally it's about 60% less. If you have 4 pendings, you probably need about 10 about 10 actives to feed the pendings. You know, you can't have 4 active and 4 pending. You always have to have more. And
Okay.
that, by the way, that's your business. That's just your career. If you had lived at 10 and 4, just live there. Live at 14. It's called your peak portfolio. You know, some people they're comfortable doing 5 at one time. 4 active, 1 pending, 3 active, 2 pending. They don't want any more business than that. But you got to have something that keeps feeding the pendings if we're getting buyers out of the picture. So, and then you go, well, how many golden geese do I need? If your number is 14, it's probably about 2. If you had 2 golden geese who are giving you the units, that's hang on a second, 448. Let me back up on that. I missed the number by a lot. You need about 7. Here's how. If you get 4 I'm gonna use 4 pendings a month because that's what I was using a minute ago. 4 pendings times 12 is 48 closings in a year. 48 divided by 7, because each referral partner is worth at least 7 a year. Well, 7 times 7 is 49, which means if you had about 7 estate planners, that's all you need. Your career is set. 4 pendings a month from 7 different people. And these are the conservative numbers. But if you get 10 a year from them, well, you don't need 7 accounts, because all you want to do is get 48 closings. If they all gave you 10, well, 50 divided by 10, we need 5 introducers. And that's your career. Just those 5 people. No more social media, no more Facebook, no more open houses. Just take care of the Golden Goose, which is why this interview is so important. Because if you're going to get, let's say, 10 deals, and your average commission there in your market is 10 grand?
No. Our average home sells for about 1.6 mil. So it's roughly in the 30 something thousand.
So 30,000 times 7 deals, you can make a living off of 1 account if your average is 20
per month.
Yeah. Well, it just depends on the size of your portfolio and who your introducers are. This is why we want to be account executives, not sales associates, because once you have an account, as long as they don't retire or die, it'll keep flowing to you. Why else would it go away? An account. They retire, they die, they get ill, or the agent screws up and loses the account. And so my safety net was I did not have 1 account. My brother and I, we had about 20 something accounts. One year I lost an account. It was 150 grand a year from one dude. And he found out he was going for an account that I had. And when he found out I had it, he cut me off in a second. But when you got 20 accounts, I can replace that one. So that's why, we want agents to have 3 to 5 accounts. Somebody dies, somebody retires, because that's your paycheck. So it's kind of back to, what are you going to ask, and how's the meeting going to end? What's the opening question? What's the closing question? And for part 1 of the interview. Part 2 of the interview, if you can get to it, if it feels like the door is open, it's the I'm an asset manager part. Can I unpack that for you, Bob? Part 1 is let me learn about you. Let me learn about who you want to be introduced to. How would you want me to introduce you? Do you have a stack of cards for me? What have you? And they need to see you as an extension of their sales force. You're out there working for the estate planner to get him 3 CPAs. And if you get a CPA meeting and you get to sit down back at his office with the CPA sitting next to you, he's going to love you, the estate planner, because you brought him 5 to 10 more deals a year from the CPA. Who knows what it is, how many units it is, but the two of them are talking and you're sitting there. Then you get another emotional deposit with the Golden Goose because you brought them a CPA. If you're going to go meet the king of any country, it's best to bring a gift. The gift is not a box of cookies. It's an account. Every Golden Goose wants a Golden Goose. They all want another account because they're a small practice, like you're a small practice. They don't have time to go out and meet CPAs or whatever. They may say to you they want trust attorneys, they want to meet a divorce attorney because they want their business practice to expand into divorce, not just estate planning. And you can go, I could do that. I could help you with that.
Okay, so in this scenario, I'm bringing a CPA to the estate planner. The benefit of for the CPA is that the estate planner may have a client who doesn't have a CPA, correct?
Yep.
And they could work together.
It's all reciprocal. I mean, this is all networking. Who do you know that knows who do you know? Everybody wants to be introduced, but they don't have any time to do it. They don't have any time to go to chamber meetings. They don't know how to find 10 more CPAs. And that would be, let's say the estate planner goes, what would my ideal situation be? I'd have 10 CPAs selling me business. I'm golden. I don't need anything else in my career. It's all over because I know a CPA, every CPA is worth 10 a year. If I had 100 more clients sending me estate planning, wills and trust, or whatever he does, you solved a business problem for them that the other realtors weren't even thinking about.
I missed a great opportunity last night. Now that we're talking, I'm a part of a Curcio group. It's a faith group, and we had a social event last night that had about 60 people there. And I missed the opportunity. So I have to keep that front and center when we have our next meeting next month, to really delve into everybody and see what they do, because I'm sure in that group we've got more bodies. Because everybody keeps telling me, oh, so and so's a realtor. Well, who cares? I don't care about them being a realtor. I'm a realtor. But I haven't heard, in this one group, I haven't heard anybody tell me, oh, this. And that's partly my fault because I haven't presented myself as that, quote, relationship rainmaker. So.
By the way, if you can get a speaking event at social meetings, because people are always looking for 15-minute speeches about something that's important to that group, you're then the authority in the room. And people are like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to speak. Well, then don't. But if you want people to come up to you because they're seeing you as the authority, your business will grow faster. And again, as long as you get 4 or 5 pendings a month, you can stop going to networking meetings. You can stop doing everything. Just take care of your clients that are being referred to you. And now you're only in the service business, no longer the pursuit business. So.
Well, I did last night. They were looking for a chairperson chairperson for what's called the School of Leaders. And this chairperson kind of works with all these little groups. And when we have a 3-day retreat, she works with the head of the retreat, the team of the retreat. So I kind of threw my hat into the ring last night, saying that I was open to being that chairperson. And that chairperson manages four social events, major social events, where I actually we will speak at the event, but we also get other speakers to speak at the event. You know, and we have to socialize with other places, and so I think that might be an opportunity.
That's great. I would say this in this recording: whenever an agent can be on a committee, in a meetup group, an events group, whatever your faith-based group is, whatever it is, wealth management groups, anything you're a part of, be on a selection committee, some kind of contribution committee, be a speaker on occasion, be an introducer. If you're not at least the speaker, be the one who introduces people who are going to be speaking. Be seen as the authority in the room. It'll open up doors. And I want to keep reminding everybody is you don't have to do this your whole career. You just got to get to your peak portfolio. Actives plus pendings. What do you want? 5, 7, 10, 15? Because whatever you get as an account, you'll be able to sell later when you want to get out of the business. And this whole big thing is you got to build something you could sell. You wouldn't build a dry cleaner and then close it when you retire. No, it's too valuable.
Let me ask a question. Is the gauge actually 7 years, or if I really put the pedal to the metal and really hustle, is the time window, can the time window be less than 7 years?
It'd probably be 3. Okay, here's why. If somebody said, I got an account a year ago and I did 14 deals from one appraiser or from one estate liquidator or from one attorney, it's hard to say that that's going to repeat. I usually look at, if you do, like I said, 7 years, they're not going to look at what you did your first and second year. They're going to look at what you did this year, the prior year, and the prior year, just like you would if you're buying a business. I don't care what you did in 2010. I want to know what you did last year and the year before that. When you're buying a business, you want to see about 3 years worth of the books. Not, man, you had a great year last year. You did 92 deals, but the prior you did 32. Before that, you did 31. You did 18. What happened? Why did you do, I'm not buying your business at 90 something transactions. I need to see what you've been doing. So it really is about 3 years is when somebody would look back at the books. I don't really care what you did 7 years ago, but if I told agents that you can get out of this business in 3 years, they wouldn't believe it. So Project 84, it's hard to argue with, can you get an account per year for 7 years? It's hard to go, I don't think I can. No, everybody's like, I could do that. Eventually, we want people to get an account per quarter. Because once you have that, you're probably getting to your peak portfolio fast.
And when you say get an account, it's not just having the Golden Goose, but it's actually getting the transaction.
The first one activates the account. Let's say you know the estate liquidator really well. You go golfing, you play tennis together, you go boating together. He's still giving you nothing. It's the first listing. It's like the baby is born. We have our first listing. Ritz-Carlton service. Take care of this client so they have rave reviews about you. So the attorney who has got more leads will give you your second one. The question is, at what pace? Is it every other month? Is it one a quarter? Is it one a month? It depends on their volume and your service. Because they have it to give. all these attorneys, they've got the leads to give. And it's not like we're fishing in a pond where there's nobody selling houses. We're fishing in stocked ponds. You know, open houses is not a stocked pond. Nobody may show up when you hold an open house. And if they do show up, nobody's biting. Nobody's interested. They're just the neighbors. This is a stocked pond. Divorce, probate, estate planners, estate attorneys, estate liquidators, CPAs. CPA is a little bit different because those are people that want to move. The first group I said they have to move. They died. The house, it's vacant. It's full of furniture. Divorce, they have to sell. That's why you got introduced. Going to a retirement home, they signed a lease. They have to sell. A CPA is going to still be a good rainmaker to give business to a realtor, but they generally want to sell. Financial planners want to sell. HR directors have to sell. Headhunters have to sell because the job got moved. If you start thinking about a bag of seeds, some have a higher yield than others. Same with lead generation. Open houses are really low yield, but agents do them because somebody told them it's a good idea. And it's like, it's a good place to learn how to interact with people that are strangers and practice your presentation. But I'd say lower your expectations if you're holding open houses because you're meeting turtles, not rabbits. We want rabbits have to move, and they're fast. Because you get a probate listing, and one of the brothers who's inheriting money says, price it to sell in a day. I want my money out of it. Anyways, so you're going to have an opening question. You're going to have a closing question to wrap up the meeting. There's some questions in between. And the objective is, by the way, if they ask you a question, you're going to try to set it aside. Can I get back to that, Bob? Let me ask you this, Bob. By the way, a really great way to answer questions is with a question. Can I ask you this? Look, if you ask me something right now, Brian, how long have you been a realtor? I'm trying to see if that's a good question or not. How long have you been a realtor? I'm trying to think what question I ask you back. Sometimes they ask what they're called clarity questions, clarifying questions. And they ask you something and you answer it, but that wasn't the question they were asking. I've been in the witness chair 3 times where clients were being sued.
I turn around and ask you, how would you handle such and such situation?
Yeah. And then what you want, perfect. That's a great example. And the way to do that is when they say the situation, you probably want to ask more details about the situation. In this, like a building inspection is going to kill a deal. Or they find out the shed in the backyard is 6 inches in the neighbor's yard. How do you handle that? Some agents would go, wow, I've had it happen a number of times where the shed was encroaching in the neighbor's yard. And the neighbor hated the guy. And once he found out, he had to make him move the shed. But the seller didn't want to move the shed. A true story. And so how do you handle a crazy client? Because the attorney does not want to handle a crazy client. They're doing the probate deal. They don't want to do what we do. And I mean, I remember this lady, she was cussing the F word, and it wasn't FISBO, but it was a 4-letter word that started with F. And this lady was effing us and F this. We're the listing agents and it's her house. But her shed was in the neighbor's yard by 6 inches. But we had to take it. We had to go in person, Mr. Attorney. We went in person and we sat there. And she screamed at us. And we sat there. We didn't say to her, you can't speak to me that way. We just listened. But then, Bob, we asked her a question. Why don't we just put the house back on the market? I know I can sell it again. Because then all of a sudden she's like, well, I don't want to do that. So Pua says, my best skill, I can disarm people that have kind of lost it in a situation. See how you could turn how you can handle it? I handle chaos for a living, attorney. And in fact, let me give you a story here. I had a lady with the fence, or because you have a story of how you probably have solved problems. People remember stories much more than anything else you said. Because if I talk to you in a week and I ask you to tell me about the story with the lady, and you're going to say, yeah, she used the F word and it wasn't Bispo. You can remember that. But the other details of this call, you may not, but we recorded it. We're going to get you a copy so you can remember what we talked about. But stories are hard to forget. So every Golden Goose agent, when you go on these meetings, you're going to have an opening question, closing question, a story in there that you can share, and you're going to have a few other questions. And there's your meeting, part one. Part two, if there's time, you want to say, if I could share a couple things about asset management, what I do. Now, if you don't feel the love happening there, don't talk about you on this first date. We don't want to talk about ourselves. Hey, let me squeeze in and tell you about me. And it's like, there's an opportunity for that. But let's first serve before we go. Well, can I tell you about me? How wonderful I am? Why I should be handling your listing business? If it doesn't feel right, don't go for it. Part two is where you really introduce, I'm in real estate. As I mentioned earlier, we work with hedge funds, relocation companies, probate attorneys, anybody who has a client who has to sell an asset. And then what we have for you, Pua, in the scripts book is, well, what do I say? I have an opening question, I have a closing question. I have some other questions in there, but I have a story as well. And that's your part one pitch. And then part two, if it feels right, you're going to see if there's an opportunity to serve. One of your questions will be in part two. Just out of curiosity, do you have a house on the market right now, one of your clients, that can't get the asset sold? Because, yeah, I have a Remax agent that's had this listing for 300 days and the client hates him. Where will that go? What I was doing for relocation companies, I was asking them, I don't want a listing that you have right now. I'm not asking for a listing. I'm asking, do you have a listing right now that's not selling in St. Louis? Let me do an updated BMA for you on the ERC form, Employee Relocation Council. Can I do an update on the market? They're like, yeah. Then I would videotape the whole analysis. I'd send them to them in a video. Weichert Relocation Company called me one time and she goes, we've never seen anything like this. I gave your name to every relocation council in Weichert Relocation. I didn't ask for a listing. I asked, how can I serve you? Do you have any active listings right now in St. Louis that are not selling? If he looks up and goes, well, I got like 10 or 12 of them out there, you're going, okay, this is big. Because I haven't given one out in a year. Well, then maybe he's not a Golden Goose. It's a way to find out if they're Golden Goose without asking, how many do you give? By simply saying, do you have anything out there right now that's not selling? I would love to do an updated analysis to kind of show you what I do. And he might say, I don't really care about that or whatever the case, but what it does, it gives you an answer to the volume that they may be doing. it's a way to indirectly find out what they're doing without saying how many listings you give out a year. Like with a home seller, when you're at the kitchen table, I never asked when you're ready for the house to come on the market, because they may say the following to you: we didn't say we're listing with you. It was the wrong question. Instead of saying, when's the house coming on the market? When are you going to list it? I changed it to, when are you ready, if you come on the market, when are you ready for buyers to come across your threshold and start looking at the property? And they say, well, we got to paint the basement, we got to paint the roof, we got to paint the yard, what they're going to do. They start giving you reasons. We got to talk to 2 more agents. We got to find out if we got the job in Detroit. I didn't ask that. I said, when are you ready for buyers to come across the threshold and start looking at the property? I wanted the truth. Because if I said, when you're ready to list it, that's in my best interest. And these questions that realtors ask during the interview, oftentimes are in their best interest, not objectively in the client's best interest. We get paid in proportion to the quality of our questions. In the right order, the right tonality, the right inquisitive way. And that's how we get accounts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just a little bit more stuff based on what you and I just talked about. I'm going to listen to this recording because we talked about a beginning and end questions in the middle, but you're going to have to come up with a story, see it in the thing I send to you about why you're exceptional. I talked to a realtor recently. She used to do F-18s, like help them land and take off and all that. And I said, do you tell your clients that you worked with F-18s? She said, no, I tell clients I was in the Air Force. And I said, you don't say a word about F-18s? Because how many realtors interviewing were veterans? She said, a lot. I said, how many work with F-18s? She said, probably nobody. So that's your special thing. That when I was helping F-18s take off and land, she goes, I got it. I get it. And so she found something unique about her background that she'd never been using. I learned how to be really precise in what I do for home sellers, because F-18s, you got to be perfect. Pua, I was a computer programmer before I was a realtor. And what I knew about computer programming is there was 0 room for error in programming, not like 1% error. And let's say Pua used to be a nurse or a teacher or an accountant. If we could take what we used to do, they'll understand what we do better now if we put it in a story. Because what did you used to do before you were a realtor?
I was a director of a department dealing with crazy lunatics.
In what industry?
Healthcare.
So here's what I learned as being a
So basically, in my department, we took care of all the paperwork when a patient came into the hospital, and we turned the documentation into the codes that were billed out for the patient.
And there's got to be a story in there about something more interesting than we took care of the paperwork. But here's what I learned as the director. There's going to be chaos, and nobody accepts chaos. In this world, Pua says there's 3 kinds of people: fire starters, firefighters, and fire preventers. When it comes to real estate transactions, I'm a fire preventer. The other realtor, the buyer, sometimes the seller, is always a fire starter. I'm a really good fire preventer is what people say about me, because that's what Pua had to be good at. Now you're given a really good visual, and the attorney knows there's always a fire starter. I'm exceptional, Pua says, at fire prevention. I'm a systems freak.
I am.
Because I want you to never be interrupted on a real estate transaction. And that's what the attorney is going, I hope this is somebody that can protect my back. So you really think through, and this is why you practice this thing 10 times before you go.
Okay.
I don't mean once. You do it again, you do it again. In the St. Louis Cardinals locker room, there's a sign that says practice till you can't get it wrong. I see agents show up and throw up. I asked them, did you get a chance to practice before you went in? I was really busy with the kids and with showing property. I didn't get to practice. I'm like, you should have canceled the meeting. You were not qualified to go in there. If EXP hired you for that territory and you said you didn't practice and you're supposed to get that account and you didn't because you didn't practice, there's too much, $20,000 a deal or $30,000 a deal. There's so much at stake here. Practice till you can't get it wrong. Control the meeting. Do it again. Do it till you're bored. And then do it again. Because what you've done, you've trained your brain. And you'll perform better if your brain has it so memorized that even your pauses and your voice inflections and the speed that you do it at and the joke that you tell, it's all rehearsed. Ever go to a play and it's fantastic because they rehearsed it? Or you go to a play and you go, I know who's going to die next, like a movie. You go, ah, that guy's going to die next. It's so predictable. This is worth $250,000, possibly one interview. Practice again and again and again. And when you're bored with it, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Then you're ready and worthy. And you're going to be so appreciative that you spent all those extra hours getting ready. Sit with your friend, sit with somebody. Just do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. I used to go to vacant houses in the early part of my career and walk around the properties as if a seller was standing there with me. I'd walk from room to room. Do all the window treatments stay? Oh, these shelves, these are booking, these shelves are built in. Did you guys build these? Let them talk, let them talk. Now, because they're attached to the wall, they're called a fixture. If you want to take them with you, take them down before the house comes on the market. By the way, Pua, there's nobody there. I was just practicing. So when I started going through by owners in the early part of my career, I was used to the walkthrough because I'd done it 25 times in my mind without anybody being there. I anticipated what they were going to ask me. I wanted to get to the kitchen table, so I brought paperwork with me as if somebody was there, and I would practice the presentation in a Coldwell Banker or Remax Listings vacant house. Because it was a vacant house. I would practice as if somebody was there with me. And I was winning again and again and again and again. Because I'm not a marketing genius. I'm an asset manager. I changed the language because I can't compete with somebody else's marketing plan, which is all a placebo anyway. Most marketing is just a placebo. You underprice it, it sells in a day. No marketing was needed. You overprice it at 2.9 million, should be 1.6. No marketing is going to help. Most marketing is a placebo, which is a nice word to say we're stretching the truth with the seller. And most of it's not true. You stick it in the MLS, price it right, it sells in a day, and you had nothing to do with finding the buyer. But we're taught to.
And they tend to always want more or believe it should be priced higher.
Well,
in my experience,
when you go through more of our program, the thing I'm going to help agents with is how to handle the listing interview in two parts. Part one is pricing. Talk about the market, talk about the velocity, talk about superior and inferior properties. If you need to talk about marketing, if you need to, we've got part two of the listing interview. Most of my career, I promised sellers I'm not a marketing genius. I'm an asset manager. You want a marketing genius? Go with the other realtor. I'm here to determine and defend your value of your asset. Now let's talk about your market velocity. What's superior to you? What's inferior? Come up with the price. I'm here to determine and defend your value. Usually by the time I got done, they're ready to list. I never said a word about marketing or the company I'm with. And people at the end would go, who are you with? I would never say the company name. Maybe they knew before I got there, but they kind of forgot because they're talked to 10 agents, stuff like that. So we're going to help you with the Golden Goose interview, the vendor interviews to introduce you, and then ultimately the seller interview. So when you go on these listing calls, you get them priced right, promising no open houses. You know, when sellers ask me, you're going to hold it open? I said, well, I'm looking for rabbits, not turtles. If you want open houses, I'm not your guy. You got to go with somebody else. I don't do open houses. I'm not looking for turtles, only want rabbits. Because can we agree? You want avoid house sale contingencies? Because that's what turtles bring. Rabbits bring non-contingent transactions and things like that, and they're in a hurry. Now, I'm giving you little tidbits of the listing interview. This is how you eliminate the other realtor who says, I'm a marketing genius. I'll hold it open every weekend. Because there are really 3 interviews that agents need to master. Introducers, Golden Geese, sellers, and maybe buyers. I don't think much about buyers, but I know how to really land buyers, corporation, buyer business and stuff like that. But we're after listings. Because you could travel and you could sell it. You can sell predictable. I did 17 listings a year from one dude for 5 years. That's an account you could introduce somebody else to, that you could sign a contract with an agent. They give you a referral fee for 7 years or whatever the terms of the contract are. So tell you what, I've got a meeting that starts in about a minute.
No worries. I really appreciate this time. I will let you know. I'm going to go back and reread the script. What was the other one? Oh, The Speed of Trust. I like that. I actually read the actual book, Speed of Trust. I don't know, about 10 years ago. When I first became, no, maybe even longer than that, when I first became a manager. So, yeah, I will take my time and prepare for my 2 meetings next week.
Do me a favor, send me an email about what those 2 meetings are, just so I have it in my records. Just email me that, a little bit about what it is and something like that. Talk to you soon.
Okay. All righty.
Thank
you again.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.